Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of NTI PodTalk. This is a platform where we talk to people who are in the nutrition world, who have something to do with the nutrition world, to bring new insights and some enlightening conversations to our students, our graduates, and prospective students. Today, we have two guests with us. We have Dianne Walley and Kristen Burkett, who are both graduates of NTI, as well as they together are co-hosts for the NANP podcast. NANP, for those who don't know, is National Association of Nutrition Professionals. And so very excited to have both of you. Thank you so much for being here, both of you.
Well, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're excited.
Good. We'll just go in succession. I have a few questions that I'd like both of you to answer. So first of all, if you could talk to us about what sparked your interest in holistic nutrition and why are you even involved in this sphere of interest?
Wow. So, it's always a journey, I think, for everyone as we get there, unless you're lucky enough to be brought up with somebody that already understood the power of all of it. And well, I wasn't. I know I wasn't, but so I always was interested in medicine. And so I was pre-med in college. And then at the end of that journey, I couldn't see myself staying in school that long. So I went into administration for healthcare instead. And I was working with doctors and clinical outcomes. And there's just always something missing in that. And I felt like, we could do a procedure right, but they were still coming back to the hospital. And why couldn't we actually get them well versus just doing the thing right, in the hospital? So that got me interested. And then I worked with another lady who was really into holistic things, and she was doing colonics and all these different things. And I thought, ooh, this is all so interesting. This is a different world. And at the time I thought, well, maybe I'll go back to school, but I was, I don't know, I was just into my career and I just thought I just can't spend more money doing that right now. So I didn't. And then eventually left work to have my family and got an early breast cancer diagnosis when my daughter was about 2.5. And I couldn't, I didn't want to live the rest of my life in fear. And I think that was the biggest spawn for me, was not wanting to live in fear and not wanting to be tied to whatever the doctor was going to tell me to do or not do. I wanted to understand more and have more control. So that sent me deep. And once I did a lot of research for myself and people started asking me questions, I just didn't feel comfortable with my knowledge, like Dr. Google, and telling people what to do. So I thought, this is really what I want to do. And I have this wonderful husband who said, okay, if you're not going to go back to the job that you had before, do something different, do what your passion is. And he said, go back to school. And I did. And so found NTI, which I was so grateful. I did a lot of research trying to find the proper school to get myself going in this field. And NTI was so research based and so science grounded. And that's what I really wanted to make sure I had. I wanted to make sure what I was learning was broad based, but had a good scientific background. And that's exactly what I got from NTI. And so that's what brought me into the world. And, since then, there have been all kinds of things in my life and my family's lives that have transpired that have required more of the holistic nutrition approach to keep us all healthy and those kinds of things. But really, it was just this one basic part of my life that got me in there. And so, yeah, now here we are. And it's a good 7 years later, I guess.
Yeah. Kristen, your story is so powerful because I think, that's a very common theme story where people have a health situation in their own life or someone in their family, and they realize that there is something missing in their medical care, and can be used very, has a nice fit oftentimes. and can be used to enhance their medical care, or in some cases, um, change the outcomes of their medical care. And so they want to learn more and they want to be empowered. And so what I hear in your story is that, you wanted to be empowered
Yeah.
by getting the knowledge that you found here at NTI, and that has really supported you not only at the time when you started school, but since you graduated in like 2015, um, uh, and continue to support those needs that you have for yourself and your family. And that, I think, is so common for students who come here, and really good to hear that that it worked out well for you, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I was very fortunate, but the word you said, empowerment, that's the theme of my practice, because really it's about being in charge of our own bodies, our own health, understanding ourselves, understanding how our bodies work and why they don't work, and
Mhm.
being able to take charge and do something to keep from being a victim. And so in everything I do with my clients, that's the common theme is, let's make sure you've got the tools you need to understand yourself and what you can do to feel your best.
Yeah, yeah, really well said. Yeah, thank you. So, Diana, how about you? What was your introduction to the holistic nutrition world?
So I have always been into health and nutrition, had, kind of a health nut mom back in the 70s. I'm from Boston, and I was just thinking the other day, I used to shop all the time at a store called Bread and Circus. Have you guys heard of that? It was like a precursor to Whole Foods back in New England. And I don't know if anybody out there has heard of that. Kind of a silly name, but this was back in the, oh gosh, like early 90s, I think. So I attended the University of New Hampshire and for journalism, and I used to work in TV news back in the day. Which, even though my career shifted, I still so appreciate that background because I love writing, and so I get to write about health, which is awesome. But my real foray into health and nutrition started about 17 years ago when my youngest daughter was born. She suffered from severe eczema. I mean, like the bleeding, itching, like you take her in public and people are like, what is wrong with your child? That kind of
Yep.
eczema. And as Kristen referenced Dr. Google, like this was well before that. So we really didn't know what to do. Went to the Western medicine route first, and they wanted to prescribe a cream. The physician said it has been linked to lymphoma, but don't worry about that. We're like, what? So searched and searched, and luckily we live in Boulder, Colorado, so a very progressive city from a health point of view. So we were able to find a holistic practitioner to help us, and through that whole experience, I started to see how important not just the herbs and things, but the diet and different lifestyle strategies were to health. And so that's what really caused me to jump into to go back to school for nutrition. I wanted to help my family, and I was getting a lot of questions from others, kind of similar to Kristen's story. So started at NTI and just had an amazing experience. So when my practice initially started, I was working with families and children. Kind of, I attracted the people that I could help because of what I went through, and but with going to school, with the rigorous program at NTI, with working, and with taking care of my kids, volunteering, like trying to do all the things, I completely wrecked myself. This is a very common story. Burned myself out. Adrenal fatigue, whatever you want to call it, and it wasn't pretty. So this forced me into another deep dive into another area of health as I learned how to overcome this for myself. And that's really when my practice shifted into what I'm doing today, which is women's hormones and vibrant aging. And I just started to attract these type of clients, which was it's just amazing how that works. Gives me goosebumps, like how that all works.
Yeah.
And that really, like, the focus of my practice now really blends beautifully with what Kristen and I do together. We have a joint practice called RestoreForYou, where we focus on similar things. So it's just been a perfect journey, and I have the perfect partner, and I'm just very grateful.
Wow. Well, so couple things. So I really resonate with your introductory story with your daughter and her eczema. I had the exact same situation with my son. Shortly after he was born, he had the eczema, red, bleeding, itching, sandpaper skin. But I did what my doctor told me to do. I used the cortisone creams, and that led to a whole host of other problems. So, this was 22 years ago, and I wasn't evolved enough to know to look for something else. So I did start on that path that you chose to get off of very early. So that's great. And second of all, I didn't realize that you guys also had a joint practice. You obviously are partners in doing the NANP podcast, but I didn't realize that you were also partners in a practice. So that's amazing. So Diana, you introduced it. Kristen, anything to add to the work that you guys do together in your practice?
Yeah, so we both have individual private practices, our own
Right.
businesses, and then we have this joint, it's more of an online program presence that we have together that focuses primarily on women's hormones and vibrant aging, really, which is an extension of both of our private practices. But we just really found that we could accomplish more together than what we would do on our own. And so when we started talking about doing something like this and having an online program and like a 2-week detox program, that kind of thing that you could access online, we just found that together we were better in making it happen because we could brainstorm with each other, we could give each other deadlines, we could hold each other accountable. And so this online RestoreForYou just kind of started to blossom. And then as we got into it more, we realized how much power there was in some of the work we were doing with some of the testing that we were doing, that we wanted to share that with other practitioners, because the test that we would use the most doesn't allow for non-licensed people to have to talk with them by phone for consults. So we decided, well, let's do something for practitioners as well, so that they've got some resources. So now we've got a little bit of online for practitioners and a little bit for clients, and it's kind of organically growing over time, maybe not as fast as we want it to, but as Diana said, we're both moms, we're both practitioners, we're doing the podcast, we're just trying to do the best that we can. And so we just let it just be what it is and try to keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So, did you guys meet at NTI, or did you not know each other when you were in school?
I don't think we knew each other in school. Diana graduated a year before I did, but back in that time, 2015, 2016-ish, there was a whole group of NTI graduates, students and graduates that just wanted more camaraderie and wanted to just learn from each other. And so back in the day, every month we had this meeting in a library in outside of downtown Denver, and we'd all come for a morning once a month, and we'd share information about what we were doing with clients, our practice, what was working, what wasn't. And it was just a way to build relationships with other practitioners. And Diane and I met through that group, I think primarily, and we just hit it off, and we just kept finding these things in common. And I don't know, it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, something that we often talk about is the community that we have here and the camaraderie that we have here. And a lot of times people make friends, amongst their classmates, and then they retain those relationships going forward. And so while you guys didn't meet at school, you still met within the context of the NTI community and have continued that camaraderie. So I think it's amazing. And the more we can all work together and be in collaboration with one another, the more it amplifies the message that we all portray to the public and share with those within our scope of practice, that, you know, very basically, food really does matter. And what you put in your body has a major outcome on your health effects. And, you know, that's ultimately the positive message that we're trying to share. And we all have unique ways that we do it. But together, I think that that amplification of the message just makes a bigger impact on the world. So thank you, both of you, for doing that. So one thing that we often talk to our students about, we'll always talk to our students, but then also to our grads in particular, we always recommend that they do the board certification exam through NANP and get board certified. And I know both of you are board certified. So can you talk about what was it that prompted you to want to become board certified? And then how has that board certification functioned to, well, what has it done in your business for you as a practitioner and for your credibility? Kristen, you want to take that?
Sure. Well, you know, it's funny. I don't even think in my mind it was a choice to take the board exam. I think when I was in school and I knew that there was this board exam, it was more of when can I take it? It wasn't will I take it? It's when can I? I just didn't see like, it didn't seem like it was really an option, because I felt like it was the culmination to say, yes, you've finished your education and now you've got this extra board certification that shows you really did everything that you said you wanted to accomplish. So I don't know, it just wasn't even a question for me. So I took it, I think I finished my classes like over the course of a summer, and I was taking the exam in the spring of the next year. So took a little bit of time to study and then took the exam. But I don't regret for a minute, for so many reasons. Just having that BCHN symbol on my website, my emails, whatever, there's just a level of credibility that I can't get from anywhere else. It gives the people that I interact with a level of certainty about what I know and what I can do. And then the other piece to me is, because I'm just a learning junkie, the continuing education that fortunately is required keeps me on my toes, and it keeps me into programs and education series that I know are meaningful and valid, you know, versus just going out and doing trainings wherever you might be able to find them. NTI does NANP does a great job of, you know, going through and deciding which ones are credible. So I don't even have to think about the education. I know it's going to be something that I can trust, is applicable, is science-based, and just builds on what I did get from NTI. So anyway,
Nice.
Those are for me.
Yeah. Good. Thank you for that. Sorry, Diana, how about you?
Yeah, basically what she said. No, I was prompted, to take the exam for that additional layer of credibility that it added to my bio. And, it is a rigorous exam. So as Kristen said, I learned so much just preparing for the exam, and I really enjoyed that process. I did have, some time in my practice under my belt before I passed the exam, but studying really made me a better practitioner. And from a client perspective, I know that they appreciate that I went above and beyond, so to speak, in my training to achieve this designation. So I get that feedback, and I just feel super proud to have that designation. And I do remember, so Kristen and I took the exam together, and Kristen is wicked smart. And I remember, Kristen, you finished before me, and I was like, I just remember you walking out the door like super confident, and I was like, oh my God. But it was an incredible experience, just the preparation, and then having that designation makes me super proud. And as Kristen said, the continuing education is invaluable.
Yeah, that was back when we took it pen and paper in a
Yes.
room all together, and it was
Yeah.
proctored and all that. Yeah,
Yeah,
a little
everybody's
different
listening's
process
like,
now.
"What? What would that be like to do it in person?"
Yeah, exactly. Did you guys study together? Did you prep for it?
No, no. I actually I was part of a study group for a period of time, but I found as it, even just the 3 or 4 weeks prior that I just kind of blocked out my calendar several hours a week and just really buckled down and studied on my own, reviewed notes and that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good. Uh, I think getting board certified is important for all the same reasons that you guys talk about, and so we're always encouraging our graduates to go on and do that. Shortly after they graduate, so that they don't get too far away from it to lose motivation potentially. So, yeah.
And
It's good advice.
yeah, and I just want to say, when I came out of NTI and I studied for that exam, I was reviewing things to put together based on, what they recommended. But I was so well prepared
Mhm.
coming out of school, and I've seen, some of the stats. There's a lot of people that don't pass that exam, but most of the NTI grads don't have any problem. It's
Yes.
very good preparation.
Yeah, we have a 93% pass rate, which we're very proud of. One of the highest out of all the
Yeah.
schools that send um, people to take that exam. So we're very proud of that. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Okay, so shifting gears just a tad, sticking with NANP, but shifting gears, how did you guys come together to be involved with NANP and work on the podcast together?
You want to take that, Diana?
Yeah, sure. So we have a history with NANP. We did a joint presentation a few years back at HealCon, their annual conference. And we've been on various volunteer committees through the years, most recently, the Clinical Content Committee. And while we were on this committee, the idea struck us that the NANP needs to have a podcast and we need to produce it. We're both real fans of podcasts, while we're walking, doing dishes, laundry, whatever, just trying to learn. We're both, voracious learners. So it took about a year, Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, to kind of come to fruition. So we presented the idea and and really took ownership and said we'd be happy to produce, would be happy to host, and they discuss it amongst themselves, and like I said, took about a year to come to fruition, just getting everybody on board. And with the launch of their new website last fall, we launched the podcast. So we're actually recording episode 31, if you can believe that, this afternoon. It's a weekly show and it's on iTunes. We're super proud of it. Really, the primary focus is interviewing practitioners in our space to share best practices, because so many of us are solo practitioners and we don't get a lot of feedback from others on how they run their business and that sort of thing. So I can't tell you the amount of notes that I take and what I learn every show. It's just been a gift to be able to do this. And it was really exciting so the NAMP just had their annual conference, as you probably know. And around the conference, we actually interviewed presenters, and not about their presentations per se, but just to get to know them, get to know how they, what their practice entails, how they run their business, their background story. It was really, really informative and exciting, and I think that helped to build a lot of excitement around the speakers and the conference. So yeah, it's a labor of love, and people will often ask us, how did you know how to start a podcast? And I'm sure you're in the same boat. We have had no idea. We just did it. That's just how we roll. We're like, let's just figure it out. And it's been a real labor of love.
Just like anything else we've done, we just figure it out as we go and
Right.
hold each other accountable and just make it happen. So yeah, but really, I think, as Diana said, bringing that connection into the space with other practitioners is really what we wanted to accomplish, because we just felt like there was this void all these people in NANP, which was wonderful, but other than the annual conference, not really a way to connect and get to know other practitioners, and such a wealth of information and knowledge out there, and really not in a competing space at all. But, so this just really gives us the opportunity to hear from all of these wonderful practitioners, and everyone has such a good heart in this field.
Mm.
And so just, I don't know, we leave with goosebumps and all kinds of stuff every single time, because we just feel like, wow, what a great person that is, that's doing what they're doing. And it's so fun to be able to share that and bring that to our other NAMP listeners.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, really great. And, I really resonate with, we didn't know how to do this. We just sort of did it. That's how we do a lot of things, right? And if you don't take risks, then there will never be the opportunity to be a reward. So thanks. Well, thank you for doing that, because I agree with you that it's really important to have this platform for people to connect with one another, even though it's still not in person connecting like at a conference. It is really good to hear backstories and histories, and and what they're doing, and challenges and obstacles that they've overcome, and successes, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a really great forum and platform. So thank you, and congratulations for it as well, for number 31. So all right, well, that's all the questions I have for you guys. I want to thank you so much for being here. Before we leave, I want to give each of you the opportunity to talk about where you can be found individually, and then jointly for your joint practice. What kind of social media things should we be looking out for from each of you? So Kristen, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, my individual business is called Nourishing Transformations. And so I can be found on a website at that same name. And then same Nourishing Transformations LLC on Facebook, Kristen Burkett Nutrition for Instagram. But I will say that Dianne is really the queen of social media. She's much more active than I am on there. So she'll tell you her handles. And then we also have RestoreForYou.com is our joint website.
Yeah, I know. Thanks, Kristen, but neither of us really know what we're doing with social media. So I have to ask my teenagers. I'm like, can you guys help me out? So I'm super easy to find. Website is DianneWalley.com. Instagram is @DianneWalley. Those are my two primary spots. I do have a blog. And shameless plug for the podcast is called Nourishing Your Practice. So please subscribe. You won't be disappointed. And as Kristen said, our joint website is RestoreForYou.com, where we have programs. So
yeah, and you don't have to be an NAMP member to subscribe to the podcast. Anybody can subscribe. So it's nice to have it in your podcast feed and just be able to click on an episode anytime you've got a short 25, 30 minutes in the car or walking to listen.
Yeah, good. Good. Well, I really resonate with what you just said, Dianne, about not knowing about social media. I actually have to hire someone to do our social media, because I know nothing about it. So, right there with you. But we're all doing the best we can and plugging away with it. So. Yeah. Well, thank you so much to the both of you. I really appreciate you taking time out today to talk to us. And I just wish both of you great rest of the day, and for the future of your practice and health to all of you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And congratulations on your podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. All righty.